Hi Disney fans, welcome to my very first homemade demonstration video. I'm going to show you how I design my Disney stamp album pages and guide you through the steps I take to achieve some very nice results. I hope that I can encourage you to try this out for your own collections. In this part 1 of the demo, we'll be using CorelDRAW to create our page template. By that I mean all the design elements which stay the same for every page that you create. So with the introduction out of the way, we'll dive straight in. I've got CorelDRAW open up here. Select New Document, and the page you're presented with will not match our album pages, so we'll have to change that. The Layout menu, select Page Setup. Now I've decided not to use my large format pages for this exercise, but instead I use a bog standard stamp album leaf. In fact, the very same ones that I use for my other collections. So first of all, make sure Portrait is selected, and in the paper drop down list, select Custom. Now I shall be working in millimeters, so I'll change that. And here put in the dimensions, which in my case are 275 wide by 310 high. I also like to colour my page to give it some contrast between it and any objects we put on it. And the rest you can leave at the defaults and click OK. And there we go. Next we shall use guidelines to create our page margins. But first of all, select the zoom tool in the toolbox on the left and zoom in on the top left hand corner until we can see the 10mm mark. Change the pick tool, place your cursor in the horizontal ruler, and with the left mouse button drag down the guideline. Now in my case I want a 10mm margin, so I'll drop it on 300 approximately. Scroll down to the bottom and do the same, this time at 10mm. Now for the left hand margin, it will depend on your own album page. Now I use hinged leaves, and the usual area starts off at about 45mm from the left. So I'll plonk that guideline on 45. Those of you with ring binders will obviously have a lot more space to play with. Scroll over to the right hand side and do the same again, this time 265mm. There. Zoom out by clicking with the right mouse button. And now we'll draw our border. Select the rectangle tool in the toolbox and holding down the left mouse button to drag out a rectangle. Doesn't matter what the size is for the moment. Select the pick tool and select your rectangle. Now when you hover over these little squares, your cursor changes into a cross. So hold down the left mouse button and drag up to the guideline. You do that for all four sides. Those of you with a bit of knowledge about CorelDRAW will be wondering why I don't use snap to guidelines And that would be a very good question, but it doesn't work because our next step produces some odd results if we do that. Right click the line you just made, try again, and select properties. Select the outline tab. I'm going to change mine to millimeters. And I suggest something like 3/4 of a mil. The rest you can leave as it is. Click on apply. In the rectangle tab we shall give it some rounded corners. 5 in this box, just about right. Okay, so far so good. Now we'll draw our circle. Select the ellipse tool and holding down the left mouse button drag out a circle, or a rough circle. Size and shape doesn't matter at the moment. Select the pick tool and in your arrange menu, transform, select size, and then it'll drop down window that opens. We can put in our circle dimensions. I suggest something like 40 millimeters for this. Click apply and we'll fill it straight away with white. To fill, click with the left mouse button on a colour, and to select the line colour you right click, and if you don't want to fill, left click on the X like that, or right click if you do not want an outline like that, but we do want an outline, so we'll change that back to black. Very clever. Now right click the circle, select properties again, and we will enter an outline the same as the border line. So 0.75, apply, there we go, and then just drag it over to the top right hand corner. And to position it more accurately, we'll zoom in. What I want to do with the circle is to cover that corner where the guidelines meet, and at the same time keep the distance from both page edges roughly equal. There. Good. Now we'll add our text. Select the text tool in the toolbox and click somewhere close to the circle and start typing. Now I'm going to add spaces in between the letters, because I found if I didn't do that, when we fit the text to the circle it looks a bit cramped. So I've simply added spaces to make that look a bit better. You'll see that in a minute. Right, highlight the text, select text in the menu, character, and here we can select the font. I've used Bodoni for mine, which I thought looked quite good, but feel free to use whatever you like. Size, I suggest 16. Click on OK. So go back to the pick tool and with the text selected, hold Shift and click on the circle. That will select both together. Back to the text menu and select Fit Text to Path. And another little box opens. We'll just drag that over there. By dragging that, I deselected my objects, so I'll select them again. Right, without changing anything, let's click on Apply and see what happens. Well, it's attached itself to the circle, but not quite in the position that we want. We want it inside the circle. So let's have a look here when it says Place on Other Side. Well, let's tick that and see what happens. Well, it's inside the circle. It's not quite in the right position. But if you look at this graphic here, that is actually 4 separate buttons. And if we click on the bottom one, that should bring the text down to the bottom of the circle. So we'll do that and apply. Yep. And we're almost there. I want to move the text round to the left a little bit, but to do that we'll have to click on Edit, and we have to change the horizontal offset. For the text to move left, I need to put in minus numbers, so I'll just click on this a few times and we'll try that. Click on OK and apply. Yep, very good. Just one thing left to do. We're going to move the text away from the circle a little bit. Click on Edit again, and we'll change the distance from the path. And in this case, 1 millimeter should be fine. Perfect. Zoom out a little bit and have a look and see what that looks like. Very good. Now, because of our rounded corners on our border, we've presented ourselves with a slight problem, because any graphic that we fill our page with is going to protrude at those corners, these 3 corners. Top right is taken care of, but we're going to have to mask the other 3. So zoom in on the top left hand corner again, about there. Select the Bezier tool. If it's not shown on here, just click on that little triangle and your options will fly out. The Bezier tool. And to use this tool is a bit like joining up dots. We want to create a little graphic that will follow our borderline and then mask off this little almost triangular area. So we'll start up something like up here and click once, then move to your destination where you want the line to end. So I'm going to click it here in the middle of our borderline, like that. Then I'm going to go follow roughly in small steps the center of our borderline. No need to be terribly accurate. Just remember to click, not drag. So that's as far as we need to go. I'll go out here and up there, and the last one has to join up with your very first line. Otherwise, if you don't close up the line, we won't be able to fill it, the object. So back to the pick tool, and we'll fill it with white straight away. But now we want to send it behind our borderline, so we select send it to the back. Fine. Now for the other two corners we simply copy that and paste it a couple of times. So click on copy, paste twice, and scroll down to the bottom there where we will zoom out. Pick tool again and then just drag that somewhere there and that one down here. Zoom in again to the bottom left. And now we need to turn that 90 degrees. Now in the drop down box where the size option was, we have another option that's called rotation. So we'll click on rotation and we'll just type in 90 degrees. Click on apply and it's turned it in the right direction. And then just maneuver it into place. There, that's fine. Send it to the back. Perfect. Scroll to the other side. And this time we'll have to turn it 180 degrees. So it's already 90 is already entered, so we just click on apply twice. That's fine. And we'll put that at the back. One thing I did forget to do is to remove the borderline. So while it's selected, right click on the X. Then we have to do that with the other two as well. Good. And that almost concludes our template. Just one thing left to do. I suggest we do a trial printout on an ordinary piece of paper, but before you do that, just draw another rectangle about stamp size. Fill it with white. Right click it, properties, outline. Now this is going to be our border for our stamp mounts. We want to enter a line thickness. Now it's not going to be as thick as our border line for the whole page. So I suggest something 0.3 of a millimeter. And now I suggest you do a trial printout on an ordinary piece of paper, just to check that you're happy with the line thicknesses and the text. There's no point in carrying on until you're happy with what you've done so far. So when that's done, we'll save it and give it a good descriptive name. For instance, Disney Stamp Album Page Template. And save it. And that concludes part 1 of this demonstration video. In part 2 we will be using Photoshop elements to create our graphics to decorate our pages. So, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in part 2.